Greetings, this is I, Candace Naraman Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome! It is time to continue my discussion on the various campaign settings of Dungeons & Dragons, dating back, of course, many of them, to Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, AD&D. So I began with, out of all of these, Spelljammer, Dungeons & Dragons Adventures in Space! So, let's continue where we left off talking about your space-based combat. And we're talking about not you against another person fighting in space. We're talking about your ships fighting in space, or your ships encountering things. Because that's what we're diving into today. We're diving into the encounter of ship versus ship in space. Now, ship-based movement in space, we've talked about how it works. You travel at insanely high speeds until you encounter something large enough to stop you into more of a tactical movement. This means that two ships, seemingly passing in the night, could easily go whoop and be close enough to each other to stop both of them. This means that ship-based encounters can be surprising. They can be something that is completely unexpected very often. And the result of this could be, well, who are you? Who are you? Are we going to fight each other? Which, that's where a lot of the essence of this entire concept dives in. You have to think about, because you have to pass close enough to something to slow you down. Close enough to something of at least 10 tons, basically a ship. In this case, if the two pop in together, they'll be about 11 to 20 hexes away. And all of a sudden, whoop, we're here. There will be no surprise rolls. In this case, it's really unexpected. Unless you have some specific way, like magic, to in fact find a ship in order to get in its path, you're not going to worry about this. Now, the exact facing of the ship that, let's say you're on here, the ship over here you're encountering is going to be kind of determined randomly, but it's always going to be assumed to, in a way, be facing off against you, and that's the DM's prerogative. The exact kind of facing and all this stuff, you can either use random mechanics, or you can, again, as the DM, decide what you want for this. But traditionally, kind of facing each other mostly head-on is what you're going to want to do. The exact pathway that each side will be technically taking when this kind of thing occurs, up to, again, DM or random rolls. Now, when you encounter each other, well, that's like encountering someone randomly out in the wild. Think about it that way. If I'm traveling on lonely road and I encounter someone else, how will they react to me? What kind of person are they? Now, if they're like a bandit, or in this case, space-based pirates, well, you know, they're going to be aggressive. But if it's just a random person, well, then we might have friendly dialogue or unfriendly dialogue. You can use basic random mechanics or determine it yourself what the exact attitude of this starting group will be. This is both a little bit of random chance you could do or DM discretion. It is important to note here that weapons, regardless of how you decide to travel with them throughout space, because some people travel with them loaded, oftentimes pirates travel with them loaded, the exact nature of these weapons being loaded or not means very little in the long run, because the amount of distance you are at when you start is too far for even long-range weaponry. You're going to have to maneuver a little bit and get closer, even if you want to start firing at each other. Yeah, that's an important detail here. Now, if you're using weaponry in order to gauge a kind of attitude of a other crew, that is an easy way of doing it. If a ship tends to travel with no weapons loaded, they are a friendly ship. If they have one weapon loaded, they're indifferent. They can at least fire something. All the weapons loaded means that they are threatening. That means they're not there against you. They're just like, keep away from me. And if all the weapons are loaded, plus a bunch of the crew is armed to the teeth ready for boarding the enemy ship, well, then they're hostile to you. Now, a ship, in this case, our pirate ship, or whoever it is here, may use things like illusions in order to hide the fact that they are, of course, aggressive. If they put a couple illusions on top of their weapons to make them look unloaded, or their crew to make them look like they are not there ready to murder, these are things that you can be used in order to fool this ship over here where you might be on into allowing the two of you to get close together and then scrum! Surprise attack on you. Now, one of the important things about encounters in space is you should use a little bit of discretion here. The better part of valor, i.e., run away. Running away is always an important and useful option that you can use at any time. It can be very important because sometimes they might look friendly, but they might turn out to be hostile, and you don't want to deal with hostile. So, running away is always an excellent choice when it comes to your encounters in space. Now, because of the nature of how your ship here reacts to large objects, you need to move away from them. Move away from anything of course, 10 tons or more. Now, if you were leaving from a planetoid, we talked about the taking off rules from a planetoid and how long it will take you to escape the gravity plane so that you can go zoop, flying off into space. In a simple hex-based terms, when we're talking about the tactical movement here, you have to be, at the start of your turn, 25 hexes from anything of 10 pounds. Debris fields or small asteroids will interfere with this, so you have to make sure that you, at the start of your turn, are far enough away from anything. This doesn't mean you can't do stuff before you zip off into space. You can get some final maneuvering in order to arrange yourself the direction you want to travel, because once you're at those high speeds, not as easy to actually maneuver yourself. It's pretty straight line at those high speeds. The other thing that's important to note here is that me as a fleeing ship, if I feel like this person is pursuing me, I could launch some weapons, like things like jettisons, in order to interfere with them. Not intending to stop with them, but maybe to discourage them enough that they're not going to pursue me through space and fly off after me. Now, once we reach high speeds, we got the chase. At this point in time, maneuverability, SR, unimportant. As soon as I zip off at interstellar speed, it's not going to make a big difference now. Now, this ship here, if they want to follow me, they can. They can align themselves after me, and zip off also. Now, the important part here is pursuing someone is a job of the navigator over here. That navigator is going to have to make a proper intelligence check, with some bonuses based upon if they are skilled at navigation, and penalties based on how many rounds you wait. If you wait more than 2 rounds before you zip off after them, you can't. You've lost track of them. You only have a little bit of time in your space-based turns in order to pursue them. And the fact is, you have to think, this is incredible amounts of speed. This is millions of miles that they're traveling per hour. These, the distance, the time, it's a lot in spelljamming. So, if I'm not exact, I can easily overshoot and go somewhere completely different. It's very quickly and easily separating them out into vastly different directions. So making sure you're on this alignment, that two are traveling on the same path, very critical. So, and that's the thing. This pursuit will continue, if you can successfully do it, until this one up here decides to stop. They slow down, you slow down. Or if you're over here, you decide it's not worth it anymore. Maybe you try to pursue them for a little bit, they don't stop, okay, Or, you try to go after them until you start running low on some supplies, and you're like, we're going to stop here. Both are cases where you don't know when the entire chase will end, because neither of you can actually see each other. You have no way of detecting the other ship unless you have some kind of magic in order to be like, oh, it's over there, we're on track for tracking it. Yes! Coming down after it. Snarl after them. Now, the ship that's being pursued can do a couple of things in order to get rid of their pursuers. Now, they could launch jettisons after them, like kind of leave a trail of material behind. This won't stop this ship here, but it will damage it. It will run through this material, which is not enough to actually stop it to damage it. Now, the ship that's running away could also launch off large amounts of material, basically 10 tons of material. If they separate it from them, it'll slow it down. With good respect, yes. If I drop off 10 tons of material, my ship's going to slow down. But you have to think about it this way. This is the material, this is me. I'm moving off. When I hit 25 away from it, I go away. I drop it, I start moving away. They pop up 25 on this side, so they have to travel to it and then by it. See? It does give me more distance. It slows them down more than it slows me down overall. And this is a great way of basically getting rid of pursuers. Now, this could be like a light vessel, like a lot of the larger elven ships can drop down their little flitters in order to do this if they're being pursued. There are other things you could do. If you're towing a vessel, you could drop the towed vessel away in order to basically get rid of whoever is over here after you. This is a powerful, but not infallible way of making it that you could stop someone from pursuing you. They might still be able to continue catching up. If they were like right behind you, as soon as this is done, they can zip off after you. They might have only lost a turn, maybe two. Now, the other way that it can be done, though, that you can avoid a little bit of pursue as being the pursued vessel, you stop, you slow down, you turn, take off again. Now, this technique can be effective. It could be that you're changing your direction. So we're going this way, you're going off that way now. You're going off a completely different angle. The thing is, this requires you to at least have a round, maybe 2 rounds of distance, of time, that this one took off before this one took off, for this to really be effective. Because if not, well, this one will be able to stop in time, see what you're doing, adjust accordingly, follow you. So yes, it requires a little bit of maneuvering in a way that you have to make sure you're at the correct angles and that you have that correct distance. But it is another technique that can be used in order to basically shake a pursuer, because the pursuit can go until destruction, death, capture, whatever. If I'm chasing after someone or if my enemy's chasing after me, they've got good reason to, at least in their minds. But that's it for today. So we dove into the encounters that you can have in space and what it means to actually randomly encounter someone. And we talked about pursue. You fleeing, them coming after you. Or they fleeing and you coming after them. In the next episode, we're going to move away from this a little bit. We're going to finish up with repairs. We're going to talk about a little bit when it comes to this entire situation of encounters and combat. And then we're going to move away from our combat to celestial mechanics. Planets, stars, etc. We do want to talk a little bit more about that before we finish up talking about Spelljammer, because you want to know a little bit about how the stars, planets, spheres, etc. work a little more. But I hope you're having a great day. If you've actually had any interesting chase scenes, regardless if it's been space-based, ship-based, or whatever, let me know about it in the comments below. A chase kind of encounter are always very interesting ones that I'd love to hear your stories about. Regardless, though, until the next time, I bid you farewell.